Welcome to the CashFlo podcast. My name is Clint Hansen. I've been doing podcasts for a long time now, but this is the first time I've actually done a podcast on my own. In this podcast, I want to talk a lot about personal finance. So I'm calling it the CashFlo podcast. It's hopefully to help you learn how to have more cash flow in your life and become financially free and retire when you want to retire. Those are my main goals. My overarching topic, I guess, for this podcast will be to break down financial topics as simply as possible. I feel like there's a lot of information out there and a lot of terms that maybe you haven't heard of before, and so I want to break those things down. So if you have any questions, feel free to email them to me at cashflofin, so cashflofin @gmail.com, and I will put that in the description. And I'd love to break down your questions if you have any, or you can leave them in the comments on Spotify or on YouTube, wherever you're watching this. A little introduction to myself. My name is Clint Hansen. I'm currently going to school, studying to become a CPA at a top 3 accounting school, and I'm really excited for that. I'm graduating in just a few years. Well, maybe 1 year, maybe 2 years. We'll see. But yeah, I've been studying personal finance for a long time though. I've read all the books that they say to read. Maybe I can do an episode about some of the great books that I would recommend. Millionaire Next Door, Rich Dad Poor Dad, Think and Grow Rich. Those kinds of books. And I've been obviously saving my money, doing practicing what I will teach, and helping others to become financially free. I've been doing a lot of these little mini classes with a lot of my friends and my wife, where we'll go and break down these financial topics, and people always just find it really interesting. And I've wanted to make this podcast for a long time now, just to help out people in that area. So yeah, today, the topic of today is I want to talk about rule number 1. So whenever I give these presentations at our apartment, I always say, no matter what you do, remember rule number 1. Rule number 1 of finance is well, it's the most important rule, obviously. That's why it's rule number 1. But that rule is to make more money than you spend, okay? And this doesn't have to be every day. Obviously, I try to tell people in every month, make more money than you spend. Okay, and I know that sounds very simple, and if you're listening to this, maybe you already know that that's a very important rule, but most of America does not live according to this rule. Most of America has debt. When you don't make more than you make, or when you don't make more than you spend every month, the only way to finance your lifestyle is debt, and most of America has debt. Now, of course, there's good debt and bad debt. But a lot of America has credit card debt, which is bad debt for the most part. And so in order to live financially free, you have to make more money than you spend every single month, okay? That's rule number 1. So we're gonna talk a little bit about that today, and I'm excited to break that down and why I think it is the most important rule of finance. So here's a little analogy that I like to use. So let's say let's say that I'm a doctor, okay? And let's say that you are injured, you're bleeding out, okay? And you got this really bad gash, and you're bleeding out, okay? In this analogy, you're losing more money than your body is pumping. So before I told you to do anything, before I told you to go on a diet or take this medication or whatever doctors do, the first thing that I would do is I would stop the bleeding. Okay, that's the first thing I do. I can't do any other thing. I can't prescribe any other treatment before I stop the bleeding, because that's the most immediate cause of the most immediate threat to your life. Similarly, the most immediate threat to your financial well-being is spending more money than you make every single month. If you're spending more than you make, that's like you're bleeding out. It's like your body can't store anything because there's nothing to store. Everything that it makes is being pumped out. Okay? So in order to live financially free, you have to make more than you spend. Okay? It's like stopping the bleeding. Great. Let's move on. A lot of people ask, what time frame? And I mentioned every month. The reason why I say every month is because if you do every day, you don't get paid every single day, right? If you do every week, you don't get paid every week. You could do bi-weekly if you get paid every 2 weeks, but the most common thing is to do it every month, because that gives you a long enough time frame to make it realistic to bring in the money that you'll spend. And on top of that, a lot of things are billed once a month. So you probably have your Netflix account or utilities, your rent, your mortgage, whatever it is, you probably pay that once a month. So that's why I would choose that time period. Okay? There are going to be some months that you're not going to be able to do that. If you have a very large purchase, for example, I pay my tuition twice a year, and usually in that month, I struggle to break even because I don't really have a steady job. So my wife works, but I don't have something that will bring in the paycheck every single month. So for the most part, I'm okay. But when that big payment comes due, I can't make. I'll be under. But that's okay. If you can't make it every single month, just make sure you're doing it every single year. And if you can't do it every single year, then you need to start making some lifestyle changes. So there are 2 ways that you can make more money than you spend. Okay, the first way is to make more money. Okay, now a lot of people say that that's what they'll do. You know, they don't want to decrease. The second way is to decrease your expenses. So a lot of people say, I want to make more money because I don't want to decrease my expenses. I want to keep spending my money on whatever it is that they're spending their money on to fund their lifestyle. Okay, now there's nothing wrong with buying nice things and everything, and that's fine if you're making that kind of money. But if you're not making that kind of money, it's a lot easier to decrease your income decrease your expenses than to increase your income. Okay, I'm probably gonna mix up those words a lot, but yes, make sure you can either increase your income or decrease your expenses. Okay, how can you increase your income? Well, like I said, it's harder to increase your income than decrease your expenses, but there are some things you can do. For example, you can increase your salary. If you have a job, you can ask for a raise, right? That's one way that you'll bring in more money, is if you're making more money from what you currently do for a living. The next thing that I would recommend is a side hustle. If you are walking dogs, or you start an e-commerce business, whatever it is that you can do on the side, there's a lot of options out there. Those are not necessarily easy by any stretch of the imagination, but those are things that you can do. And the last thing I would recommend to increase your income is to find ways to get passive income. So through investing. So for example, a stock might pay you dividends. Okay, so those are 2 words that are kind of financy, and we'll definitely dive into those later. But for now, just know that you can buy stocks that will pay you dividends. Those are often very, very small dividends, but you can find ways to make passive income like that. Some people do that through investing in real estate, and then they have a check coming in from people that they rent out to. So then they have tenants, and a lot comes with that, but that is another way to have passive income and increase your income. Okay. Again, those things are a lot harder to do than to decrease your expenses. Okay. It is hard because the more money you make also is the more you're going to spend. So, if I was making $100,000, that sounds like a really good salary. But if I'm spending $110,000 every year, then I'm worse off than someone who's only making $50,000 but spends only $40,000. So just make sure that if you make more money, you don't also spend more money. Okay, and that's why I always say that decreasing your expenses is a lot easier. So let me list off some expenses here that I thought of that you could probably cut down on. the first thing you can do is eat out less. And cook your meals more. I think that this one is huge. So, my wife and I, we grocery shop. We do some thorough meal planning once every 2 weeks. So we go to the grocery store for all that meal planning and buy everything that we'll need for those 2 weeks and make most of our own meals. Now we still go out to eat probably once a week, more or less. Some weeks we don't, and some weeks we go more than that. But around once a week, we go out to eat, and there's nothing wrong with that, again. But I've done the math, and we spend probably about $5 to $10 per meal, well, per day, really, on groceries when we cook all our own meals that day. Versus if we go out, it probably costs us $10 to $20 for one meal. For just one meal and not the whole day. So eating out less and cooking your own meals more is definitely a way that you can decrease your expenses. Another thing is impulse purchases. Okay, so you've probably seen ads on Instagram or TikTok or whatever and thought, wow, I should buy this, and just impulsively you buy, or you're at Target and you say, oh, here's gum. I'm gonna buy the gum, right? Try to avoid those. Okay. Another thing is avoid these these big activities, such as I wrote down golf for me. Golf is a big one for me because one round of golf can cost $50 to $80 to $100 almost sometimes. Okay, so maybe golf less or go to the range more. Just find something that's cheaper. For women, that can be things like nails and hair and beauty salons, things like that. Those things will add up. Again, none of these things are bad, but if you want to make more money than you're spending, it's a lot easier to decrease these things than it is to go out and find another job or find some other form of income. Okay, couple last things here. Just monitoring your monthly subscriptions. Again, it's not bad to have Netflix or Peacock or HBO Max, whatever it is. But if you're using those things, if you aren't using those things for how much they cost, that cost can add up every single month. You might say it's only $20 a month, but that's $240 a year that could be staying with you and growing in interest in investments. Okay? Usually people's greatest expense is probably their mortgage or rent. It's very difficult to just up and move. So you can try to refinance your mortgage or find a place if you haven't moved out yet with cheaper rent or something that will be cheaper every month. Again, not bad to have a mortgage, not bad to rent, but it's just about living your life in the stage that it is so that you can make more money than you spend every month. Okay? Next thing that I would recommend here, probably last thing that we'll cover today, is find some way to track this. So find some way to figure out if you're spending more than you make every single month. So for me personally, I use the spreadsheet that I made with my wife about a year ago, and we've been using it for this past year, and it's worked out really, really well for us, and we're easily able to see if we make more than we spend every single month. I use Google Sheets, so it's pretty intuitive to use. If you want that, I'll leave a link to that. It's only $5 on Etsy, and it'll save you a lot of money in the long run. So I'd highly recommend doing that. You can also download a budget app. I'm working with my friend right now actually to make a budgeting app that will be a lot like the spreadsheet. But you can find something. You'll probably have to pay a monthly fee for that, but again, these things are worth the investment. You'll probably learn to save a lot more of your money. And I would just challenge you to track all of your income and expenses somehow, either using the spreadsheet or using an app to make sure that you're spending less than you make every single month. Okay? So that was the first episode of Cash Flow. Hope that it was informative entertaining. I enjoy doing these podcasts. I'm not great at them, especially by myself quite yet. I'll probably have my wife on to talk more about this. She's studying personal finance actually. So she probably knows more than I do about the nitty gritty kind of things, especially taxes and things like that. But our goal again is, like I said at the beginning, is to break down these complex financial topics into as simple as possible, and give advice wherever we can. So if you have any questions, feel free to comment them. Send us an email. I'll leave all the links and everything like that in the description. And just let me know what you think and the topics you'd like to cover. And yeah, thanks for listening.